What's good, people? It's the Rap Roundtable here. Your boy Jarv, the Rap Snob, Diddy the Balance, the homie Mace. We just need y'all to like, share, and subscribe when you tap into the videos. We're trying to reach 5,000 subs and eventually 10K subs. And with your help, we could definitely do that. Especially people who watch the videos and don't sub. You watching, we appreciate it. But the subs help us run it up even more. For our people who are already sub, make sure you hit that bell right next to the subscribe option. Pick all. When you pick all, it allows us to feed you what you need to get from us immediately. If you don't hit all, you'll get it when YouTube decides to give it to you. But if you hit all, you get the streams, you get the community posts, you get our regular uploads, you get everything. Hit all, help us run these numbers up, 5K, 10K, build a Rap Roundtable brand. Tap in with us. Peace.
The Rap Roundtable.
Yes, sir, the Rap Roundtable is back. We're not on location. We are in our regular battle stations today. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people are mad at us based on our opinions on this whole thing with Biggie Smalls, Notorious B1, etc., etc. But you know, we're the Rap Roundtable, and if you're not mad at us sometimes, in the words of Sin, we're not doing something right. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you're going to agree with us. Sometimes you're going to disagree with us. But the point of this podcast is not to have an agree session. It's not a circle jerk. We're going to have debates. We're going to argue in the comments. We're going to argue with each other on the podcast, which we've done countless times. So if you're not familiar with the Rap Roundtable, we just give our takes, our opinions, and let the chips fall where they may. Okay? That's what we do. It's your boy Jarv here alongside the Rap Snob, alongside the homie Mace.
Good,
the homie Deanie's on the clock right now, so he couldn't be with us. His schedules didn't work out, but shout out to you, Deanie. You already know the vibe.
Sure.
The homie Esco was a hot topic of discussion on the Hiphop podcast by way of interviewing Nature. So a lot of 90s rap fans know that there was a relationship there with Nature. If you knew Nature, chances are you knew of Nature because you were following Nas's career. No disrespect to Nature, but Nas in the firm, we got introduced to him by way of that. Things went awry. The relationship, went left. We heard a lot of things that Nature said. We've heard about some things on Nas's side, but it's like, do we want to pick a side? Like, whose fault is it? So, of course, much like the Biggie video, we're going to go to the Rap Snob first because he was there and he was outside, unlike a lot of people. So, Sin, based on what you know, I said it. Based on what you know about the situation with Nature, Nas, the firm, Queensbridge, etc. Who would you think is at fault for the fallout?
It's a lot of layers to peel back. It's a very complicated, sort of knotted up pretzel type of situation, type of, like which came first, chicken or the egg. I'll start with Nature's story and how I and most of the hip hop listening audience back then started hearing about Nature and started learning of Nature and hearing his verses and records. He was a replacement in the firm for Cormega. That's how I knew about it, right? And so now listening to this interview that he had with Math Hoffa, a lot of the sort of pieces, a lot of like the behind the scenes and the lore that we might not know about starts coming into vision. And what it sounds like to me, because they were asking him questions about do you think it's, do you blame Nas? Do you think Nas was mad that you signed with Trackmasters and not him? Like, how do you think that that separation happened between y'all? How y'all, why y'all fell out? And, he was basically explaining that he was new to the game. He had some issues with the law. He was on parole. And, he came on. They gave him this opportunity with the firm because Cormega was out the clique. They needed somebody new. They needed a fourth member, right? And he took the bag, but he didn't know anything about the business. And this is where shit goes wrong with a lot of artists to this day. They didn't have any representation. He didn't have any representation. He didn't have a lawyer. He didn't have a manager. And so he was presented with this opportunity. He took the bag, right? He made some. Damn, bro.
Marty, what's good?
Cameo.
That's the alarm that's going on outside. He goes crazy whenever that alarm goes off. Anyway, he had no lawyer, no manager, no representation, nothing. And so whenever that's the case, things are not going to work out well for you. And that's the bottom line of it, right? Now, on the other side of things, as big of a Nas fan as I am, I know Nas's his less than strong suits, right? His weaknesses. He's not the greatest on the business side of things. Like history has shown that, right? As a as a head of a clique or as a executive, he's had some shortcomings, right? He was the head of the Bravehearts. Whatever happened with the Bravehearts? The nature thing. If y'all remember Quan, he was trying to bring out Quan. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? Like, so it's
Sin. Hold on, Sin. I'm not to cut you off, but you know they're gonna get mad.
I think it's a combination of things. Now, Nas is my favorite rapper, as you all know. Even if you want to call me a fake Nas fan, but
do they know?
I don't know.
But here's the thing. I accept Nas's shortcomings business-wise because I never looked to him for that. I looked to him. He's the quintessential artist, right? The word art is the most important part of artists. All he cares about is the art and being the best MC and making the records and making that music that connects with people. As far as the business side of things, he always kind of fell short. It's not really till recently where he's started getting his business acumen up. I don't know if he hired like a business manager, a guru or something. I don't know. I don't know if he's partnered up with the right people. But historically, you know what I mean? So like the combination of both of those things, like Nature was just like fresh off the block, no representation, nothing. He could write some verses. He has some dope bars. And then he gets thrown into this whole firm situation, and now all of a sudden he's looking to Nas like, yo, Nas, like you gotta, point me in the right direction. You gotta, build my career. And Nas at that time was not in a career building type of place to do that for Nature. So, I mean, it is what it is.
Okay.
I don't think there's any one person to blame. It's just like, it wasn't the right situation at the right time.
I just feel like they're gonna be real mad about you bringing up Bravehearts and Quan and him as a record label exec.
Why? Are y'all Braveheart fans? Are y'all Quan fans? What's your favorite Quan record?
It's like you can't criticize Nas. You know that, Sin.
Come on, man.
Oh man.
You know that. I mean, but Sin is not wrong. He's not wrong. Like, Nas the executive is not Nas the artist, and that's not a knock against him. Everybody can't run a label. That's like so. Exactly. Before y'all heart start pumping and y'all start doing this and y'all start typing, just be rational. Think about everything that happened back in 97, 98, 99, and you have your answers. Like, relax. Mace, what are your thoughts on this situation?
Now, I want to, before I even get into the actual situation here, I've spoken about this before when Raekwon recently released his book, but I want to lament on the fact of like the whole Queensbridge lore and hip hop is like less than discovered. Like it needs to be more, you know what I mean, documentaries and things about this. Like,
absolutely.
I think about how the kids cover hip hop now. You know everything about Old Block, and you know everything about these Atlanta rappers. Like I just wish at this time, you know what I mean? Because we all know the Ill Wills, the Nas, the Mobb Deeps, the Lakey the Kids, the Sherm the Worms. Like we know all these names exist in hip hop and hundreds of stories behind it. You know what I mean? Prodigy, you know what I mean? It's Prodigy's book, you know what I mean? This is a very interesting, you know what I mean, part of hip hop and an undiscovered part of hip hop that I think needs more coverage. But to speak on the issue between Nature and Nas, now I want to speak on the first fact is that Nature in this interview, shouts to Matt Copper, he's putting out a bunch of good content recently.
Thanks.
Nature went out of his way to not answer any question as best as he could. He started bringing up other shit. You know what I mean? Like I feel like he was a little
saucy too, though.
Absolutely, it looked like he's been sauced for years straight. If you want me to keep it a buck,
yo, that's crazy.
But Math even in one point tried to call him out on his bullshit, and I felt like answer the question, bro. Like, so Nature. I feel like even he knows that he fucked up here. You know what I mean? He doesn't seem to really, whether it's for the fact of hoping that maybe him and Nas can salvage something one day, or just knowing he's in the wrong. he never really kind of, it was more small shit like, oh, he never showed up to the to the video, or oh, he never did this, but it wasn't complete slander.
Right.
I will say this. I feel like I've made a face turn after the Biggie vid. I feel like I was the one person that most people agreed with in our comments. I'm going back to the heel turn because let's keep it a buck about Nas, bro.
Oh shit.
Like, he has bad like AZ has said Nas did him wrong at one point. Foxy, Cormega, Nature. Like, yeah, everybody, like Prodigy, like
Nori,
this is
Prodigy,
Nori, absolutely. Everybody, bro. Like,
yeah.
Let's keep it a buck. So Nas was like some timey nigga back then. He was a funny acting nigga. That's why, his success now kind of speaks to how he's kind of changed and evolved over time. But back then, like, Nas was a funny nigga. Like, let's keep it a buck, bro. So I do not put it above Nas to be on some funny shit, feeling like Nature got with track masters and he was feeling a little way, or you know what I mean. I'm not putting it past Nas. You know what I mean? Not showing up to shit because he was high. Like, this is what Nas did at that point, bro. Like, we know that. Being the great MC he is, but this is true. So I kind of feel the same way Sin feels, in a way that nobody is above judgment in here. Not like, you know what I mean? All them Queens niggas complaining after the fact. Let's keep it a buck. Tragedy is complaining in every interview. Nori's complained before Drink Champs. Like, all of their business was kind of funny compared to, how Biggie and Jay-Z had their shit together. You know what I mean? So I don't put anything above. They was all kind of snaking each other in Queensbridge. They was all kind of, trying to fuck each other's chicks, acting funny. Like, I've gone in depth in this story. I've read the books. I wasn't there like my guy said, but this is like a super interesting part. So I've already known, you know what I mean, from Nori throwing flower pots at Nas. You know what I mean? We all know that they was all kind of acting weird, bro.
And what's funny to piggyback off that is that I feel almost like I lean more towards the Queensbridge sound and sensibility, and just because of the griminess of the music, because them motherfuckers was grimy as fuck, just like you just explained, bro.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. I didn't expect this response from Mace. Mace took all that goodwill and gave it back.
It's gone. I don't want it.
But also to piggyback off what Mace said about, like, complaining years later, like, this is another thing, and I'm going back to the Biggie video, and I'm standing on my hill. Like, if motherfuckers come like years later complaining about how shit didn't work out in their favor, right? You go into the music business thinking that shit is gonna be all good, and you didn't listen to motherfucking A Tribe Called Quest with industry rule number 4080, right? And then you come out of it surprised, like, yo, motherfucker snaking. Like, bro, like, come on, man. That's number one. Number two, you also got to take accountability for your own, whatever decisions you made, whatever's going on with your own ego, right? You gotta put that all into perspective as well. You know what I mean? And like, if you feel like shit didn't work out at one point in time, and then you just said fuck it, like, bro, there was plenty of opportunities placed in front of Nature. Probably that you gonna
eat the whole plate, nigga? Can I get it?
I'm just saying. All right, go ahead.
Like, goddamn.
Get up, John. Get up.
Said everything I was gonna say. Shit. But anyway, I don't really like this type of shit. Y'all know that already. Like, to me, this falls under that revisionist history shit that a lot of niggas is doing. And granted, because there weren't any real platforms back in the day like we have now to where people can tell their story, emphasis on their story, we get these kind of scenarios, right? But I look at the Nature situation and it's like, and I guess I'm gonna turn face here because it's like, I'm not looking at Nas. We know Nas history. Is Nas funny style? Has history shown that, but not Nas the rapper, but Nasir Jones, does he do funny style things? Yes, we've seen that. We kind of talked about that with the Hove and Nas beef, that maybe if Nas wasn't how he was back in the day, probably throw that little, that line Hove's way, because Hove was fiending to be next to Nas, but Nas ain't want that. If he would have been a little bit of a nicer guy, maybe we never get that beef. You know what I'm saying? Granted, Hove did what he did, and Jay-Z's not a nice guy either. But back in the 90s, Hove wanted to be next to Esco. We know that. Esco told that nigga the fuck out of here. The rest is history. You know what I'm saying? He's done what he's done. But at the end of the day, when you ask these questions on this podcast, right? And you mention Destroy and Rebuild, right? Why you ain't mention the song that you made about Nas before Destroy and Rebuild?
Hey.
You told this whole story about, your cousin out of town heard the song and wanted to know what was going on. And you played this whole victim role, but you didn't mention the song where you was kind of calling them out, but you ain't named no names? Come on, Nature. All right. Yeah. We know Nas probably not the best record label exec, but if Nas tell you who's one of the hottest guys in the 90s, right? And he built this whole narrative that Pac passed away, Big passed away, there was a power vacuum in the city, and it was Nas. It was, before Jay did anything, it was still Nas. He was there. You know what I'm saying? Track masters is in your ear and you doing whatever you doing. Why you ain't wait on Nas, Nature? It ain't like they was signing you for $500K or $1 million up front. You signed for 60 racks. Now, again, much like we talked about in the Biggie video, you can't speak on what an artist is going through when they make certain decisions with executives. We don't know what Nature's life was about. He probably needed that 60K.
But he touched on it. He touched on it in the interview. He was on parole. He needed to show that he was generating some type of funds.
I'm shooting him some bail. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you go through these things and you sign for 60 bands because that's probably the most amount of money you've ever seen in your life up front. You do what you gotta do. Right. But you're still next to Nas. All right? Maybe just wait a little bit longer. You got these dudes in here. Come on, sign. Where's Nas? Because niggas is real funny style. You could tell a story and romanticize that they giving you beats, but in them studios such as where Nas at? How come Nas ain't come to the studio? Is Nas gonna do this song? People they turn you to the dark side by just throwing little things in the atmosphere to turn you against the person who basically not to say there's anything wrong, but he was kind of bleak. You know what I'm saying? Like Nature was Memphis Bleak. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. He was the first round draft pick. So I can't condone this approach. You failed. In my opinion, Nature failed. He fumbled the bag. And Nas being Nas is not gonna shoot you no bail. If you fuck up, Nas is gonna be like, fuck out of here.
And look, we heard similar stories from Beanie Sigel about, Jay and the Rock. Not to equate Nature and Beanie Sigel. Beanie Sigel was way more successful and had a much firmer grasp on the culture. Right. He had the culture in the chokehold for a second. Mm-hmm. But it's a similar dynamic. You know what I mean? Like you did after you've been, and Matt Hoffa actually like pretty much said this on the interview. He was like, "Yo, bro, like they threw you the alley-oop. Like you were supposed to take that and run with it." And and this is my issue. Like some people will make the bad decisions after they've been, handed the ball. They fucking dribble it off their foot, it goes out of bounds, and then they're looking at the person. They're looking at the person that threw them the perfect pass. You know what I mean? And it's like, bro, he threw you the perfect alley. You fucked it up. And let's be real. It's Nature is one of those that's like a professional feature artist.
Damn, son.
You know what I mean? No, that's not. Look, you might take that as a slight or a diss, but it's like he had ill verses on records. You know what I mean? On Banned from TV, a lot of the Firm tracks. He's kind of low key, and they're gonna shoot at me. But this is me, being fair. He kind of low key smoked Nas. Maybe not smoke. Smoke is a strong word. But he got the better of Nas on a couple freestyles, especially that Clue. One of those Clue freestyles. Now
you're not saying that wrong because there was a reason why Nature was anticipated at a certain point. He was performing with the lights on him at the highest level.
Right. And so, so he had the hot 16s, he had the hot verses, but when it came to making records, songs that would resonate and he talked about this in the interview too. It was like, he had a dope pen game, but let's make a song, let's make a record that's gonna resonate, and that's where he fell short. And a lot of people is gonna be like, "Oh man, like radio shitted on me, Nas didn't do right by me, Trackmasters didn't do right by me." But sometimes you gotta look inward and say, "Hey, how did I fall short of making a record that really resonated with the culture?" Right?
A part of me feels like Nature burned a bridge and he just don't want to say it.
Yeah, that too.
Because if Nas made up with everybody else, like literally he's made up with everybody else except you,
That's a fact.
Even Hove, he made up in Hove, bro.
That's a whole
Everybody but you, Nature. You did something, Nature. I'm putting it on him. It's his fault.
Facts.
Damn. Well, apparently Mace said some shit that was too hot, so he got booted off before we could even finish this little episode. But we're gonna wrap it up right here. Again, this is the Rap Roundtable. This is what we do. It's all about discourse. Like some people is like, some dudes like, oh, you're not gonna be taken seriously. It's an app. We don't come on these platforms to say some shit with the hopes that you agree. This is hip hop, nigga. We're gonna talk. We're gonna be in the spot. We're gonna argue. Someone's gonna say some shit you don't agree with, and we argue it out. If you ever feel so strongly about what we say, right? Well, I've said it in the past. Sin can tell you, you're free to come to the Rap Roundtable and argue with us. We have the mailbag section. You can argue with us. You can come on one of these Zooms and you can argue with us. We got Mace back here to wrap it up. We are open.
We everywhere.
That's a fact.
We're everywhere. Instagram, DM us. Twitter, DM us. You got the emails in our YouTube. Come holler at us, man.
You know what I mean?
Our table's open.
It's like this whole thing. Like, when did it become status quo for motherfuckers to agree about everything in hip hop? Like I grew up arguing with niggas about who I liked, who was whack, who wasn't whack, why they was whack. Now this agree culture thing is really confusing to me. But I see Mace trying to get his life back together over there and shit.
Yeah, I'm back on. Yo, a little bit of technical difficulties, y'all. Sorry about that.
We was about to wrap it up, but do you have any final thoughts? Because basically, I'm blaming Nature. You kind of blame Nas. Sinner's in the middle. What are your final thoughts on this topic, bro?
I'm gonna blame. I'm copping out here, guys. I'm gonna blame the nature of New York because. Yeah, absolutely. Because if you mention it, listen to what he even says there. You know what I mean? Like I felt like Robin to Nas's Batman. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And just if he'd have just waited, bro. You know what I mean? If he'd have just waited, it's like everybody wanted to be the man at this point. I saw a clip from Fat Joe earlier. He even blamed the ego of New York for the downfall. You know what I mean? He blamed. You know what I mean? He wanted to be Cam wanted to be the king. 50 wanted to be the king. Jay wanted to be the king. Nas wanted to be the king. We couldn't just get it together. So it's like that's on the macro level. This is on the micro level. He just wanted to be the man. He couldn't wait. You know what I mean? So I guess I am blaming nature, even though Nas is a funny thing.
And again, just to be clear, I like Nature. I like Nature back then. He had his little moment. He had a lot of dope verses, a lot of hot 16s. He had that two Founders freestyles with Nas. He was toe to toe with him. Might have even got a slight edge on him a couple times. He had In Too Deep, Ultimate High, both with Nas. He had the Band from TV. He had joints. He had verses, freestyles, some dope records. But it was good. But it just ultimately wasn't enough.
Oh man. Damn.
And all that
had to be you, homie.
We're gonna leave it right there. We got episode 51 that's out right now. We got the TDE clip that's out right now. We got the Notorious B1 Biggie Smalls clip that's out right now. We got New York Bias too that we dropped a few weeks ago. It's out. Episode 50 is out. It's a lot of content here. So again, there's a lot of new people who just discovered this channel. Get familiar with us before you argue with us in the comments. Get familiar with New York again. A lot of y'all forgot. We're trying to make New York again with this podcast. And sometimes we're going to say some shit you don't agree with. We're going to say some arrogant shit, some biased shit. So what, nigga? Like, you know what I mean? Argue back. If you're not repping for your town, what's more hip-hop than repping your city? Y'all all do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, get familiar with the Rap Roundtable, and you're all welcome to join us here to talk about some hip-hop. Peace and love.
Come through, yeah.
I mean...